Welcome to the Driving Adoption of File Collaboration with Office, OneDrive, and Microsoft Teams breakout session. We have a very strong OneDrive contingent in the room who are going to put you all to shame if we don't start cheering to keep up. My name is Olga Doletska, and I am a senior program manager on the OneDrive team, and I'm joined by Ankita Kurti, who's a product manager on the OneDrive team. And over the next 60 minutes, we're going to show you three things. The first is how deeply connected Office, OneDrive, and Microsoft Teams are when it comes to file collaboration. The second is how to get the most value out of collaborating using this integrated set of solutions as grounded in a set of real-world user scenarios. And the third is how this integration offers users the flexibility of working off of whatever product and endpoint they prefer. So since we're at the very end of the conference, we're going to focus our time mostly on doing demos, at the hopes that we inspire you to collaborate in a new way once you get back to your desk after the conference is over. We have a lot of exciting content to get through, and before we dig into the demos, I'm going to hand it off to Ankita to discuss some of the industry trends that we've been seeing around collaboration and to lay out the journey that we're about to take you on.
Thank you, Olga. So in an era of digital transformation, how we are working is changing rapidly, and it is specifically with the way of how we are managing our content and working on our files. People are creating more content than ever, and they're using multiple devices when they're doing so. Apart from creation, they are also collaborating on those content and sharing it on the go with people within their organization and folks outside their organization. In fact, Gartner predicts that by 2022, 50% of the organization would be using a document creation tool, a document collaboration tool, as a standard interaction method for document creation. Forrester also predicts, after a survey they ran, that the more engaged workforce you have, the better customer satisfaction they drive, and it lifts sales. Basically, the more collaborative work environment, higher the productivity. And how do we help here? So all the workloads that Olga just mentioned, OneDrive, Teams, SharePoint, Office, addresses all these needs and much more. And today we are going to show you exactly that. And we are going to do it a little differently today. We would be stepping into the shoes of your end users. And the persona that we've picked for that today is a very common one, a sales professional. So how many of you are aware of the sales process? Quite a few. So just to set up context, the sales process is divided into primary 4 stages. The first one being the qualification stage, where sales representatives gather leads, gather customer connects, and they do all of it by, say, attending marketing events, customer trade shows, one-to-many customer events, or holding customer roundtables. The whole idea is to generate and qualify lead so that they can then move to the engagement stage. Here, with the leads that they have qualified, they would now start engaging with the customer. They would prepare a sales pitch, hold meetings, do product demos, and maybe with the help of a subject matter expert, do a POC. So now, after a successful engagement and a happy customer, they finally move to closing the negotiation. Here, a sales representative would be initiating a contract, getting internal and external sign-off, and finally closing the deal or the agreement. Now, once the engagement has happened and the closure has happened, we have the customer success and support team move in to help the customer adopt the product and guide them through the training cycle. Now, a shout out to all the sales people who are out there. It's not as simple as this. I have been one 4 years back. It's damn tough. There's a lot of heavy lifting. We as IT can just support them to make sure that they are as productive as they can be so that they don't need to worry about the content and the decks and the presentations and the workflows and just focus on the sales part. So today, how we are going to play it out is that we are going to dig deep into these 4 stages, discuss the scenarios, talk about the activities, and demonstrate the features and functionalities that will actually help a sales representative be more productive. And to support that, Olga and I decided that SPC is the best platform to make our acting debut. So we would be getting into 3 personas. The first one being Adele, that would be played by me. She's a sales representative, very busy, moving from one customer meeting to the other, gathering leads, and holding as many engagements as she can. The second is her manager, Miriam, who makes sure that the team is well supported throughout all the closure and negotiation phase. That would be played by Olga. And since she's a better multitasker and a much better actor, she would also be playing the third persona, which is of Megan, who is a customer success representative and also helps with customer support and vendor management. Great. So, and all of them work at Contoso Electronics, our most favorite company. So now let's talk about the first set of scenarios. So me as Adele, I am attending a trade show at Vegas. And here my company, Contoso Electronics, is setting up a booth, participating basically, and my responsibility is to set up a booth, manage the booth, and and showcase all my products, make sure that I get a lot of customer interests, and gather a lot of customer leads. So for that, let me first move to my demo machine. Okay. So I am a sales rep, as I've not right now. Okay. So I am a sales representative, as I've already mentioned, and I'm really busy. I am traveling from one customer to the other. I live on my mobile device. I really do not have time. So there are days when I cannot even open my laptop. But you know what? It's completely okay, because everything I need to do, I can do it right from my mobile device. And I'll prove it to you. So coming back to today, now I'm traveling from Seattle to Redmond. I have not had the time to look at the talk track or the decks that I need to present at the booth. And the only time that I have from now to the trade show, because as I land, I straight go to the venue, is these 2 hours on the flight. And no matter how much I want, I cannot sleep on the flight or look or see or watch a good movie. All I can do is review the deck that I need to present at the trade show. So that's okay, because OneDrive can help me do it. All I need to do is take my stuff offline for future use, and that's how I will actually begin my demo. So since there would be spotty network on my flight, or maybe no network, I don't know, I will take my presentation offline, because OneDrive can allow me to do that. So here is the deck that I need to review. I will make it available offline, and before I board the flight. It's being downloaded, and my files are available for offline. So now I'm on the flight. I'll put it on flight mode. And now the next 2 hours is just reviewing the document and making sure I'm up to date with the pitch without any internet connectivity. Now, in this scenario, I do not need to edit this document, because it is just a talk track that I need to review. But if I needed to work on documents and I did not have internet connectivity, I can easily open it in my PowerPoint app or my Word app, because of the integration of Office and OneDrive. And I can make any changes that I want to. Once I'm connected back, all the changes that I've made will be synced back. And everyone who has access to this document will be able to see the most updated version of the file. So great. Now I have landed. I will remove my phone from flight mode, and I will leave for the venue. Now I'm at the trade show, and I'm getting a lot of great feedback from my customers, and they love the products, and they really want me to take forward the discussion more officially. And a lot of them have given me their business cards. Now, by my prior experience, I always tend to lose these business cards if I'm walking around with multiple of them. So what I've decided, as Miriam had told me to do, as best practice, is to actually scan the business card and upload it to my OneDrive. So I will always have access to it. It will always be there for me, and I'll never lose it. The best part is that I don't need to use 2, 3 different applications. The scan in my OneDrive and the built-in scan in my OneDrive helps me to easily scan a business card. Okay. I'm sorry, that did not come off too well. And save it directly to my OneDrive for future use. I also noticed that there are a couple of vendors here in the trade show that my team back at Redmond were evaluating for future interaction and use of their products. So I felt that it would be a really good thing for me to do if I can gather some intel on the work that they are doing so that it can help my team members back home. And again, instead of carrying a lot of leaflets and booklets that they've given me, I will use the power of built-in scan functionalities in my OneDrive to scan all this documentation and send it to my team back home. But I'll do it a little differently here. First, now apart from only scanning one page, OneDrive also allows me to scan multiple pages because it supports multi-page scan. So I'll scan different documents. This was particularly the best vendor that I saw, SharePoint. And now I will save it to my OneDrive. Wait, let me first just make an annotation as well so that they can look at this exact thing that I want them to do. But I'll not save it to my OneDrive. What I'll do is I will save it to a shared library. This will give me 2 advantages. First, all the team members back at home can directly access it right now as soon as I upload, and they can start their evaluation and their process. Secondly, it will help me add any metadata that I want to in a way that now the data is travels along with the file. So I don't need to have a sign-off status, and I've added the 2 metadata, and I've saved it directly to the team side. So great. I have received a lot of good customer feedback. I have leads. I have intel for the teams that did not expect me to get intel for them. In all, it was a great trade show. So now it's time for me to go back. But before that, I'll quickly capture all the features that we just saw. So with OneDrive, you can work on all your files from anywhere, any device, edit them on the go, save, share, upload, collaborate on them. Everything is possible, even from a mobile device. With the built-in scan functionalities, you can scan your content and digitize it on the go. With Office Lens, it has dynamic image corrections for whiteboards, documents, business card, or any content. And you can crop and add filters or annotations as well. And finally, with the help of the scan functionalities, you can also add metadata while on the go. So now I am back to my office, and the next scenario that I am in is that I have to begin the customer engagement. And for the next set of demos, Olga will be my subject matter expert, Megan. So quickly step out of the presentation mode. Okay. So now when I am in my office, I usually begin my day with office.com, and this gives me a quick view into all the apps that I need, all the documents that are recommended to me, all the activities that are on the documents, and it is based on the documents that need my most attention or the ones that I'm working on, the recent documents, documents that have been shared with me, or the documents that are trending around me, and all the wonderful activities. And the files and folders that I have recently visited, or the SharePoint sites that I'm following. I think I forgot to show that I had actually jotted down all the questions that a customer had asked me during the interactions at the booth, and I had shared it with Megan while I was in the trade show. So I will go to the document, and I hope Megan has started making her inputs. I can see her right there making some changes. Yes, I'm sure of it. Are you?
Uh-huh. This is the challenge of having one device on Wi-Fi and one device be wired.
Yeah,
But they're coming
oh,
over
but
at
it's
the speed of the
there.
wire.
It's there. So she is editing out of her Explorer, the Windows Explorer version, online version, and I am on the client. So if you have end users who still want to work on the client apps, it's okay. They can do all the co-authoring, sharing, and everything that they want right from their client. So Olga is making all the changes. I'm sorry, Megan is making all the changes. And while she does, I need to first find the business card that I had captured so that I can send the file to the customer. And I'll do that using the search in OneDrive. Do you see how easily, even before I search anything, OneDrive prompts me the files that I might want to search? Because these are the files that I've been working on recently. So I do remember the customer's name. And because OneDrive has OCR capabilities, it would scan the text of the image and prompt me with the proper search results. Now, for obvious reasons, I have this beautiful looking cloud on my contact information. But for the purpose of this demo, let us pretend that the email address is sharemolly@gmail.com. And again, now with the integration of OneDrive and Outlook, I can easily share the files from my Outlook, but not a local copy, a cloud version. This will help the end users in two ways. Firstly, version control. Everyone will have access to the most updated version. And secondly, I can set any access restrictions that I want to right while sharing. And I do get the option of sharing as a link so that they can co-author and reply in real time, or they will receive a separate local copy. But I don't want to have to suffer the different versions with the different versions, so I'll make sure I'll change permissions and set it to only recipients can edit. Hey, Molly, it was nice meeting you. Great, so I will share it with her. Oh. Now, my colleagues and my subject matter experts can do all the presentations at their meetings directly from OneDrive. In fact, they can do the presentation right from their phone itself. But right now, I will do it from the client version. To make sure that I am looking at the most updated version, I can now see the visual version history that is supported by PowerPoint, by Office apps right now. And another very cool feature is that for accessibility options, I can now make sure that I hope I have the subtitles on. So now when I talk, I would get the subtitles right on my deck. And this can be done in any language, not specific to English. OneDrive, after this meeting, PowerPoint will also prompt me to share the presentation with the meeting attendees based on my calendar. So again, the integration between OneDrive and Outlook calendar. And all these features of PowerPoint that I just mentioned is limited to Office apps and is limited to PowerPoint being saved on OneDrive and not any other file share and sync application. So now what I'll do is, I remember that the customer was really in a hurry, so I'll proactively create a proposal and get the internal sign-off just to save time. Now, because with the OneDrive Sync client, I can even sync my team sites, and Miriam is very strict about where I need to save the proposal. So I will go to one of the team sites that I've already synced, and I'll open one of the customer proposals just to make sure. Oh. So this is one of the customer proposals that has already been used. So I'll make sure I use the same text. I'll go into a new document. I'll save it. Now, Office would prompt me to rename the file directly within the app. I do not need to leave the app to save the file in OneDrive or rename it separately. So let me rename it as Mark 8 proposal. And I will save it to my OneDrive. Now, I'll also @mention Miriam so that she makes sure that the proposal is, the project scope is exactly what she wanted. So @mention would, great. So now she would get a notification and make sure that everything she wants is in here. I will also go ahead and share this document with Miriam so that she'll have the easy access. So you see the sharing experience is extremely seamless, be it Office apps or web or my desktop client and even my mobile client. So I'll send it to her. Now, Miriam is strict about where we save our customer proposals, and she really wants us to make sure that the customer proposals are saved in our shared library. So before I leave it for her to action it out, I will first move it to one of our shared libraries. I think it was sales and marketing and customer proposal. Move here. Oops, I think there's one that already exists. So once that is done, what I would do is that I will initiate a flow for requesting sign-off so that once Miriam is happy with however the proposal is, she can easily approve it and make sure it moves ahead in the flow of activities. Please approve. So now running this flow, with this out-of-the-box flow, it will automatically initiate a sign-off flow. It will send a notification to Miriam, and Miriam will soon show you her side of the view, where she would be able to look at the request that I've sent and approve it accordingly. Moving it. So before I hand it over to Olga, playing the role of Miriam, I would quickly take you through whatever we have discussed. So with @mentions, which are available in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, it is easy to bring people right into your document. We can search images based on text with the OCR capabilities. And the built-in flows for common tasks, be it out-of-the-box flow or any new flow that you can build, you can easily have workflows for common tasks. So over to you, Olga.
Great. Thanks, Ankita. So as Ankita mentioned, today I'm going to be making my breakout debut playing the role of Miriam, who's Adele's manager. So Miriam at this point is primarily responsible for looking through the proposal that we saw Adele draft in the previous phase and getting it ready for the customer to take a look at so that we can close the deal and start engaging with the customer. So the thing to know about Miriam is that she primarily uses OneDrive and Outlook to get to her work. She loves OneDrive because it lets her get to all of her files regardless of where they're stored, and the tight integration between Outlook and OneDrive means that the conversations in her files live alongside all of her other conversations, which means it's easy for her to stay on top of everything that's happening in her organization. So you'll remember that our story left off with Adele sending Miriam an approval request, and we'll pick up the story from Miriam's Outlook, and I'll pick up to referring myself in the first person to get into my big acting role. So switching over, in Outlook, we can see two emails. So the first is this email that Adele sent, or that Outlook sent on Adele's behalf, which tells me that Adele shared a document with me that she wants to get my feedback on. The second email that I see in my inbox is this approval request generated from Microsoft Flow. So what happened after we saw Adele hit the approve Flow sign off in her SharePoint, this sent me an email with a little bit of information about the file that I'm approving, the details that Adele provided when she sent the approval request, and a link to the document. So right from this email, I can approve or reject the proposal, and that would get reflected wherever the file lives. But in this case, I think that there's a little bit more that Adele wants me to do. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is open the file based on the sharing link that she sent. And that'll launch the file right into Word. And I can see that she left me an at mention at the project scope. So I'm guessing that from this, she wants me to do a follow-up in terms of making sure that the project scope information that she provided is accurate before we send it over to the customer. So I'm going to take a minute to look through the file and make sure that this looks ready for the next stage of approval from the customer and for internal review. Since this is my big acting role, I'm going to pretend that this is already complete so we can move on to the next stage. So now that this looks complete, I'm going to go back to my inbox, go back to that approval message that we saw before from Flow, and I'm going to hit the Approve button in the bottom left-hand corner of the email. I'll type in a little bit of information that says, I'll follow up on the project scope question that you left me, and hit Submit. And when I hit Submit, two things will happen. The first thing that'll happen is that Adele will get an email. As soon as my loading icon finishes working on it, Adele will get an email and letting her know that I approved her request for the document to move to the next phase, and the status of that file will get reflected as approved in Outlook. So that, the status of the file will get reflected as approved in SharePoint, and anywhere that list of files is presented, so that even though I didn't have to go to SharePoint, everyone who's working out of that shared library will see the latest state of the file. So now that I've approved the proposal, the next step in my organization's process is to send it to the legal and finance team so they can start putting together the next level of information to get it ready from the customer. So what I'm going to do is open the proposal file that you saw me go in before, and I'm going to go ahead and share it so I can generate a link. So the type of link that I'm going to generate is a password-protected link. So to generate that, all I have to do is go to anyone with the link and set a password. In this case, it'll be this ever-secure test123!! And I'll hit apply. So that means that anyone who gets this link will be prompted for the password. I can see our security expert in the audience already giving me a dirty look. But that means anyone who gets this file will be prompted for the password before they can open the link. So the reason that I choose to use password-protected links as opposed to any of the other great data security features that Microsoft has is because the way that my organization likes to work on these customer proposals is that internally, within my sales and marketing team, I want complete open access through every stage of that customer proposal. But as soon as there's sensitive information in the file, I really benefit from having that extra level of security so that if the link gets overshared in email, I at least have the confidence of knowing that you need to have the password in order to be able to access the link. So now that I've generated a link and explained my reasoning, I'm going to go ahead and click the Outlook button. I'm going to always allow pop-ups, and then I'm going to hit that again so that I really get my password protected link, and you all get to really remember how to set a password on these sharing links. We're going to go with my terribly unsecure password again, and this gives me a chance to show you that it had already created the sharing link before. So I'm going to go ahead and use the existing password, get that link again, copy it just in case I get blocked again, which I didn't, and I'm just going to go straight to Outlook this time. And what I'm going to do is add in my contacts internally. So Nestor works from the finance team, Lee works on the legal team. I'm going to drop the sharing link that you just watched me create, which is not the link that I copied. So I'm going to go ahead and do that one more time so that everyone really leaves understanding exactly how to set a password on these files. So I'm going to go ahead and hit apply, use new password, copy the link. Going to actually copy it this time. Go back, paste the link. Wonderful, everything's working great so far. And then I'm going to go ahead and say new customer proposal so that I provide Nestor and Lee with a little bit of context so that they understand what's going to happen when they aren't able to open this link. So I'm going to go ahead and say, hi, Nestor and Lee, working on a new customer proposal. I'll share the password with you in person after we discuss. The most harrowing part of these demos is always being able to type as fast as you're talking, and I think I'm doing pretty okay when we meet. Thank you. I appreciate that support. So now I'm going to hit send. And what I really like about this is that I can remember that I'm Miriam, and I am now sending the password with the right level of access for the right people that I'm collaborating with, because I know that everyone who is going to use this link will be prompted for a password to open it. So I'm going to go ahead and send this to Nestor and Lee. And now that I've handled the customer proposal that I saw in my inbox, I'm going to go ahead and see how the rest of the customer proposals are happening across my team. So to do that, I'm going to jump into OneDrive, because OneDrive is the place that I go to work with all of my files across all of my places with everyone I work with. One of the things that's important and why OneDrive is really valuable to me and how I work is that I work across a lot of different projects which have files stored in different places. And with OneDrive, I don't have to worry about whether the files live in a team site, a team, or a group. OneDrive just lets me access all of the files, so I don't have to try to corral everyone to use a single solution. So I'm going to take a quick scan through my OneDrive to see what's happening in some of the shared libraries that I work out of and make sure that I'm staying on top of my work. So as Adele already mentioned in the earlier section, there's the recommended section right above my files list in OneDrive, which tells me a few of the things that have been happening on my files. So the recommended section is great because it helps key off of key activities that have been happening in my files since I last opened them so that I can stay on top of my work and figure out where people are waiting on me to do stuff. It's also great because recommended is powered with machine learning, which means the more I use it, the better it gets. So it looks like there are a few things that Adele shared with me, which I'm going to go ahead and open and queue up for my next task. So moving over from the recommended section, we can see a list of shared libraries in the left nav of OneDrive. And shared libraries refer to containers that contain files, sets of files, which I have access to, I'm working on with a group of people, but I don't necessarily own. So you can see that there are a set of libraries in this list. And because OneDrive is a great Files app experience, the list of libraries is ordered by where I go to use files the most frequently. So because I work across a lot of different shared libraries, OneDrive helps to keep me connected to all of the libraries that I wind up using the most, so that it always keeps them right at my fingertips. However, there are some times where when I'm looking for a shared library, it's not necessarily the one that I use the most frequently. Sometimes I need to get to a library for a short amount of time, and I don't necessarily know whether it's going to be in my top 8 libraries for that day. So to get around this, what I use is pinning. So pinning is this little pin icon that's available when I hover on the libraries in the left nav. And to pin something, all I need to do is click on the pin icon and hope that I don't have any demo gremlins. Great. And you can see when I clicked on the pin icon next to the retail shared library, it automatically puts it at the top of my list, which means that I have a reliable way of getting back to that shared library whenever I need to use it, for as long as I need to use it, and I don't have to rely on the machine learning to catch up to what I already know that I'm going to do. There are also times where I have just started working on a new project, and I want to be able to get to the shared library for that project quickly. So to do that, I'm going to click into the More Libraries screen, and you can see there are a few sections that represent all the shared libraries that I work on within my organization. So along the top, you see the frequent shared libraries, which, as I mentioned, we rank based on file activity and machine learning, so that the places that you open files from the most are the most at your fingertips in OneDrive. There's the followed section, which refer to shared libraries that I followed in SharePoint. And the new thing that we've added is this join section. I shouldn't say we, because I'm Miriam, and I don't work on OneDrive, but I hear that someone on OneDrive added this join section, which represents all of the shared libraries that I'm a member of. And if I decide that I want to add one of those to the top of my left nav, I have that same pin icon. So all I have to do is hover. I'm going to say leadership is going to be a really important shared library. It might be a little bit aspirational, but I'm going to click it. And you see that it showed up on the top of my left nav above the other frequent shared libraries that are there through machine learning. So I've taken a quick look. You've seen my entire history of shared libraries. I feel pretty good about my left nav, so what I'm going to do next is jump into checking on those customer proposals that we mentioned a little bit ago. So to do that, I'm going to click on Sales and Marketing, and you'll see that one click from the left nav in OneDrive immediately gets you to list of shared libraries, the list of files within the shared library in my Sales and Marketing site. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Customer Proposals. And you'll see that in this view, we have the same metadata that shows that the file that I just got sent is approved. And while I'm here, it doesn't look like there are any new proposals that are waiting on work from me. So I'm going to take this opportunity to clean up my shared library to make it a little bit easier for me to scan the next time that I'm here. So to do that, I'm going to make a few changes. I think that this column looks a lot better over here, a little better feng shui. I'm also going to go ahead and decide to group this by approved, which means that the next time I come here, it'll be really easy for me to see which proposals are approved and which ones aren't. And I'm going to go ahead and save this as a view. So this is going to be my proposals by approval status. And I'm not going to make this public because I think it's only really relevant to me as the manager who has all of the approval rights. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So I think that at this point, all of the customer proposals that I've been working on with my team are in a good place. So I'm going to go ahead and reassume my identity as Olga and jump back into those slides that we saw before in order to recap what we just went through. So as soon as Presenter View takes us away, we'll recap some of what we just saw. So the first is we saw how well integrated app mentions are in Outlook, right? I can automatically reply to email notifications and sharing notifications that I get in Outlook and use those to open the files that other people are requesting on my help to work with. You saw secure external sharing, which lets us control access to content, send expiration dates. You're hopefully all very familiar with how to set custom passwords now in OneDrive, and how to block, download, copy, and print. I can also, from OneDrive and in Files views, organize stuff with metadata, which means that I can add custom columns, format data, bulk update, and make a view that's the best for me, and also make them available to my team. So now that the customer proposal has been sent off for review within my organization, let's go ahead and step into the support phase of our scenario. So in this role, I'm going to be playing Megan. who is our subject matter expert at Contoso Electronics. Megan is also a huge fan of Teams. Megan loves Teams because it's a fantastic collaboration hub so that as she's coordinating a rollout and adoption with customers, it's easy for her to see all of her tools and information to coordinate that rollout within a single place. So in this stage, we're going to see Megan work on 2 projects. The first project is that Mark 8, that company that we saw before with all of the questions, has decided to deploy Contoso Electronics internally. So Megan's taken over the role of helping that deployment and rollout be successful by collaborating with people from Mark 8 and people from Contoso Electronics. The second is that the vendors that I identified earlier today are helping us coordinate a new product rollout within our retail stores. So I'm going to check in on that work to make sure that we're ready for rollout and all of my account managers are taking the right next steps. So I'm going to move into Teams. I'm going to assume the role of Megan. And let's start by looking at the Mark 8 project team. So the very first thing with Mark 8 is that it's important to note that this team represents both employees who work at Contoso Electronics and also employees who work at Mark 8. And we're working together to make sure that their deployment of Contoso Electronics' latest drones is going smoothly within their organization. So we had a call a couple days ago, and they raised a few questions, which I've been working on a document to help answer. So I'm going to go ahead and share that document with the group. So that was a very assertive click. It jumped right past that screen. So I'm going to hit the paperclip right below the Teams chat. I'm going to go to OneDrive. And the file that I've been working on, which will be really useful for everyone in my group to be aware of, is called International Marketing Strategy. I'm going to click Share a Link in the bottom right. And you can see that this created a tile with the file that I just shared. But also, if you can read the subtitle at the bottom, it says anyone with the link can edit, because those are the default sharing settings within my tenant. In this case, I'm going to make it a little bit less scoped. So I'm going to change the link settings so that this link works only for the Mark 8 project team. This makes it really easy for me when I'm sharing a file with a team to only share to people in that team. So I'll go ahead and hit apply. You'll get to watch me type again. So I'll say, hey, following up on the discussion that we had last week, I think this file will help. File will help us move forward. No reason to be impolite typing in a demo. So you can see that when I sent that file, it shows up right in the conversation view of Teams so that anyone who's in the team and part of the conversation can easily see the file. What's great about that is that as people comment on the file and participate in the discussion around the file, that file will always be available at the bottom of the team so that as long as it's relevant and people are talking about it, it'll be easy for everyone to access it. There are a couple of other great features in Teams that help drive collaboration around files. And to take you on that whirlwind tour, the first place I'm going to click is the files list. So in this files list, we can see that same great files view as if I had opened it in OneDrive or SharePoint. And there are a few integration points which are really useful. The first is that if I decide to have these files available locally on my machine, I can do that directly from Teams and get the same benefits that Adele called out earlier. The next is that if I click on these little ellipses next to any of the individual files, you'll see that I can pin them to the top, just like I can from a shared library, but I can also make this a tab. So making this a tab will add this file to the top of the tabs in the channel, which means that for files that I think my team will be using all the time, it'll always be one click away. There won't be any hunting and pecking, and for files that are going to get used a lot, it helps to have an easy way for everyone to be able to access the same information. So now that we discussed files, you can also see that there's the same great view capability as if I were right in SharePoint. And I'm going to go ahead and check on the Mark 8 project plan. So the Mark 8 project plan is a planner that our group is using to help coordinate the rollout and deployment of Contoso Electronics drones within Mark 8. So you can see that there are a set of tasks here, which are all assigned to different people, which helps us coordinate the rollout smoothly because we know exactly who's responsible for what. And it means that they can get to that latest state of information directly in Teams and not have to jump out to any other app to get the information somewhere else. You can also see that from Planner, it's integrated the same charts, so I can clearly see whether or not we're on track and get information about how the overall project and the project schedule is going. Continuing along some of the tabs, the next set all are Office files, which have been added as tabs within Teams. So you can see that animations are playing. I can go and easily view the files from Teams. And if I decide to edit, I can edit directly in Teams and not have to leave the app to get any work done. Also, if I'm co-authoring, I can co-author from the Teams client along with other users who are working off of other products and other endpoints and not have to worry about where other people are working from. We can all just collaborate together smoothly. So I think that Mark 8 project team is in a good place. I shared that file with them before. It didn't look like there was anything in the planner page that was waiting for my attention. So the next project that I'm going to check on is that retail deployment. So for the retail deployment, as I mentioned, we're working with a set of vendors in order to roll out our new product across all of our retail locations for Contoso Electronics. So I want to figure out how that's going, if we're on track, who I should bother to get us on track if we're not on track. And to do that, I'm going to jump into this retail accounts link, which shows me the list of stores, the account manager, sales targets, whether or not their display is ready, postal code, and a few other really valuable pieces of information. So just like you saw me do from OneDrive, I have the same settings on the list, so I could group by display ready. I could add a little bit more information and metadata to make it easier to read. But luckily, I have a custom view that someone else on my team made for me, which makes this kind of information really easy for me to scan. So all I have to do is apply that customized view, and you'll see the same information in the list laid out in a different way in Teams, which helps me highlight the account manager, whether or not the display is ready, and help me at a glance better contextualize some of that information that we saw in the list. Like I get the location information alongside a little map of where exactly the stores are. So this is pretty good. I think it's pretty scannable. But I'm really going to gild the lily here and add a filter. So to do that, all I do is click on the filter icon, just like in SharePoint. I'm going to go ahead and filter down to the items that don't have their displays ready. And now it's really easy for me to see that Nestor and Adele are the two account managers that are behind. So armed with my newfound information, I'm going to go ahead and poke them to figure out why we're not on track. And to do that, I don't even need to leave this tab in Teams. So all I need to do is click on this little conversation icon in the top right-hand corner of this tab. And what I'll do is I'll @mention Nestor and Adele. Let's meet to discuss why we aren't on track with the displays. Thank you. And when I hit send, that comment will show up in two places. That'll show up embedded within the tab conversation, but it'll also show up in the all-up conversation. And anyone who's looking through the general discussion in that Teams channel will figure out that there's something happening in another tab that they need to get their attention on and help move collaboration forward. So Megan's checked on her two big projects that she's been helping support. And let's go ahead and recap some of what we just saw. So, as Megan, we got to appreciate the full benefits of animations in PowerPoint, great, where we saw that SharePoint lists that we saw in the earlier section look great in Teams. So you get the same metadata, you get the same views, and you get the same capabilities to make your information easy to read and scan. You also saw that common file browser experience. So regardless of whether I'm looking at the list in Teams, OneDrive, or SharePoint, I get the same information about my files and the same ability to switch between views to make sure that the files that I see are the ones that need my attention the most. I can also share and pin files in Teams. So when I share, like we saw before, there are team-specific settings, and there are also experiences that feel native to Teams, so that in cases where I have a group who mostly does their work through conversations, files just live alongside the overall discussions that the team is having. And I can also pin important files to the top of the list or the top of the channel so that everyone can get to the information that's the most important for our work at the right times. So that wraps up Megan's section. So I'm going to hand it back to Ankita to help summarize some of the things that we've shown you today and to help you get started with collaboration.
So as Miriam beautifully showcased, that she works across various projects that has a lot of files that needs her attention, and all these files are scattered across different shared libraries and also in her OneDrive. But she works primarily out of her OneDrive because it gives her easy access to all her files. Because OneDrive is the Files app for M365. It allows you to create and access files on any device, collaborate, co-author, and share files with folks internally and externally, helps you coordinate and structure files and add metadata even while on the go. And finally, find files that matter the most to you. And with the power of M365, it helps you keep your files protected and backed up.
Great. So we hope that through this talk, you've learned more about how deeply connected OneDrive, Teams, and Office are, and how that extends to file collaboration across whatever product and endpoint you prefer to use. We have a few resources on the slide to help you get started. The resources that we showed in this session, links to the other sessions that ran throughout SPC19, and a couple of links that are helpful for getting these products deployed and used within your organizations. So thank you so much for taking the time to attend. Please remember to fill out your speaker evals so we can keep providing you with relevant and helpful information. And safe travels back home. Thank you.